I pretended to be my twin brother to save our family reputation. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My twin brother didn't show up to court, so I took his place. That's the first line that popped into my head when the clerk opened the heavy oak door and called, "Liam Carter?" I stood up, smoothed Liam's expensive navy suit that still smelled like his cologne, and said, "Here." My voice shook just enough that I hoped they'd mistake it for nerves instead of fraud. Inside the small conference room were three people: the university's conduct officer, a student representative, and attorney Ruiz, hired by my parents to handle this unfortunate misunderstanding. Ruiz looked me over with the kind of sharp calculation that made my palms sweat. He'd only ever met Liam over email. Today, he met me, Brian, the twin they rarely mentioned. I could feel my heart pounding against the fake ID card clipped to my jacket. Liam's photo, Liam's student number, Liam's life. I rehearsed the story my parents drilled into me. An innocent mistake, a jealous classmate making up accusations, our family's good name. The whole Carter brand was printed on every building donation plaque on campus, and I was here to keep that brass from tarnishing. "Liam," Ruiz said, extending his hand. "Rough week, huh?" I took his hand, hoping he couldn't feel the sweat. "Something like that," I muttered. In that moment, I wasn't Brian, the twin who fixed laptops in a strip mall repair shop. I was Liam, the golden child, the one who'd gotten into this university on merit and charm and maybe a little money. I'd spent the last 72 hours memorizing his schedule, his friends' names, even the way he tilted his head when he pretended to listen. They started asking questions about the cheating allegations, shared exam files, duplicated essays, money transfers. I answered with lines Liam had spoon-fed me, while my brain screamed that none of this was simple, none of this was harmless. If they caught me, it wouldn't just be my brother's future on the line. It would be my freedom too. As the conduct officer slid a thick folder of evidence across the table, I realized something terrifying. The lies I was about to tell weren't just to save my family's reputation. The lies I was about to tell might bury me right alongside Liam. And the worst part was, I still hadn't seen the full file against him. I didn't yet know the one name inside that folder that would change everything. To understand how I ended up impersonating my twin in a cheating investigation, you need to know how our family works, or doesn't. Growing up, Liam got the spotlight, and I got whatever beams bounced off the floor. Same face, same birthday, completely different scripts. When we were 8, Liam scored the winning goal in a kids' soccer final. Dad, Gregory, lifted him onto his shoulders like a trophy while I stood on the sideline, holding the extra water bottles. "Support is important too, Brian," Mom, Elena, told me, patting my back without looking away from Liam. It never really changed. Liam was our future senator, our little CEO, the Carter heir. I was good with computers, which translated to useful when the printer jams. At family parties, relatives would pour Liam drinks and ask about his internships, while I refilled ice and answered, "Yeah, IT stuff," for the 10th time. The most recent wound before all this. 2 months ago, Gregory's real estate firm was sponsoring a charity gala. They wanted a Carter on stage for the big donation photo. I'd actually done the tech work for the gala website, the ticketing, all of it. Mom called and said, "Brian, we need you to help set up the projector." I showed up in a decent shirt, cables in hand, and watched as they rehearsed the main moment. And now, the host said, "Let's welcome young entrepreneur Liam Carter." Everyone clapped as Liam strode on stage in a tailored tux. Gregory stepped forward, arm around him, flashing that politician smile to the cameras. Later, in the kitchen, as I coiled cords, Gregory clapped me on the shoulder. "You and your gadgets," he laughed. "Good thing your brother got the looks and the charisma." Tessa, our cousin, overheard and rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "You know he's standing right here, Uncle Greg," she snapped. Gregory waved it off. "We all have our roles," he said. That night, watching Liam's face in the society pages while my name stayed buried in the site footer, something settled heavy in my chest. I wasn't jealous of his life, not exactly. I was just tired of being so easy to replace. So when the trouble started, it wasn't just my family's reputation that made me say yes. It was the first time in my life they acted like there was something only I could do. And I had no idea how badly they were about to abuse that. The first red flag looked like a harmless notification on my phone. I was elbows deep in a broken gaming PC at the shop when my screen lit up with a text from an unknown number. Liam, call me back now. They're threatening to go public. I almost ignored it. I get wrong numbers all the time. But a second later, the same number called. I let it go to voicemail, then curiosity won. I slipped my earbuds in and listened. Liam, it's Mark, a man's tight voice said. I don't know what you told your investors, but the documents don't match. They're talking to lawyers. If this hits the press, your father's name is done in this city. Call me back. I frowned, wiped thermal paste from my fingers, and texted back, wrong number. A minute later, another message pinged. Stop playing games. If you don't fix this, I'm done covering for you. I deleted the thread. People misdial rich kids all the time, I told myself. Still, that night, when I scrolled Liam's Instagram, the unease grew. There he was with some slick-looking guy tagged at Mark Dalton Finance. All champagne and rooftop views. Caption, to the next big win. The second flag came a week later. I stopped by our parents' place to drop off Mom's repaired laptop. While passing Liam's old room, I heard him whispering, voice sharp. I said I'll get it to you, just don't call here again. The door opened, and he nearly collided with me. For a second, his face went pale. Jesus, Brian, do you creep around on purpose? Nice to see you too, I said. Mom's laptop's fixed. He forced a grin. What would we do without our family IT department? As he brushed past, a printed email slipped from his hand. I picked it up reflexively. At the top, I saw the words Notice of Investigation and Academic Integrity Office. He snatched it back. Privacy, he snapped. Sure, I said, heat rising in my cheeks. Privacy for the important twin. He stared at me, something like guilt flickering across his face, then shoved the letter in his pocket. It's nothing, he muttered. Some jealous idiot making accusations. I wanted to believe him. Maybe I would have, if not for the third red flag that arrived in our parents' mail a few days later. It had the university seal, Gregory's full name, and one word that made my stomach twist. Probation. And that's when I realized Liam's nothing might already be choking all of us. The scandal didn't creep in, it detonated. I was on my lunch break, scrolling news on my cracked phone, when I saw our last name in bold letters. Carter air-tied to exam-sharing ring at State University. I nearly dropped my sandwich. The article had Liam's photo, the same shot from the charity gala, cropped just tight enough that my face could have fit there instead. The story detailed a network of students buying and selling stolen exam files. At the center, one Liam Carter, business major, son of real estate developer Gregory Carter, recent donor of the gleaming Carter Learning Center. I read every line twice. Screenshots of group chats, Venmo transfers, an email from Liam's university address promising guaranteed A's for a premium. The comments were brutal. Rich kids cheating as usual, daddy's money at work, burn that donation plaque. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from Mom. I already knew what she was going to say. Brian, can you come over? Her voice was thin, frayed. It's about Liam. When I got to the house, the atmosphere felt like a funeral. The TV was muted on a news panel discussing academic fraud among the wealthy. Liam was pacing the living room, hair a mess, shirt untucked. Unthinkable for him. Gregory sat rigid on the edge of the couch, jaw clenched, newspaper crumpled in his hand. This is a hit piece, Liam said as soon as he saw me. They're exaggerating everything. Gregory shot him a look. They have screenshots, Liam. So what? Liam snapped. Everyone shares stuff. And they're only targeting me because of you. Elena dabbed her eyes. They said they might revoke the building name. She whispered, like that was worse than expulsion. Tessa was there too, leaning against the doorway, arms crossed. Her gaze flicked to me, then back to Liam, like she was tracking a storm. Brian, Gregory said suddenly, as if he'd just remembered I existed. You've seen that online crap. People mix things up. They assume, they project. He stood, walked over, and gripped my shoulders with both hands. We can't let them destroy what we've built. Do you understand? My heart pounded. What does that have to do with me? Liam stopped pacing. Our identical eyes met. For the first time in years, he looked genuinely scared. Because, Gregory said quietly, the university has scheduled a preliminary hearing for Liam. He paused, choosing his words like landmines. And we think it might be safer. if someone else goes in his place. For a second, I thought Gregory was joking. I laughed once, a dry, ugly sound. You want me to what? Audition for his expulsion? Elena flinched. Brian, please don't make light of this, she said. You and Liam look so alike. People have always said so. Yeah, I shot back. Except when scholarships and internships are being handed out. Tessa snorted under her breath. Gregory ignored us both. He started pacing, the way Liam had been. The article mentioned stolen exams, payments, a whole ring. If they attach Liam's name to this officially, it will follow us everywhere. Investors, partners, donors, they spook easily. The hearing is just to assess credibility of the accusations. So why not send the actual accused? Tessa asked. Gregory rounded on her. Because your cousin has already made every mistake possible, he snapped. We need someone calm, someone who won't crumble under pressure. He turned back to me. You're good with details, Brian. You keep your head. You could sit there, listen, see what they actually have. Ruiz says it's not technically a courtroom, just a fact-finding meeting. Liam finally spoke. They hate me already, he muttered. If I show up, they'll just use me as a scapegoat. But if you go, he gestured helplessly. Maybe you can soften it. Say the right things. Dad says you're good with systems, or whatever. What you mean is, I said slowly, I'm disposable if this goes wrong. Elena's eyes filled. No, she whispered. That's not what we mean at all. Tessa stepped forward. Brian, you don't owe them this, she said firmly. If they want a lawyer there, fine. But this is identity fraud. This is messing with your life for his mistakes. Gregory's gaze sharpened. We are talking about protecting everyone, he said. Your mother, your grandparents' legacy, the company that pays for your health insurance, by the way. There it was. The hook. The reminder that even my cheap apartment and dental cleanings were, in some way, tied to the Carter brand. What if they find out? I asked. What if somebody realizes I'm not Liam? Gregory spread his hands. Then we call it an honest misunderstanding, he said. Twins, mix-ups, it happens. Tessa shook her head in disbelief. Or you get charged with lying in a formal proceeding. The room went quiet. This wasn't some prank. It was a line we couldn't uncross. I looked at Liam, at the mirror of my own face twisted with panic and shame. All my resentment battled with something else I didn't want to name. This sick, thrilling feeling of finally being important. I just need you to do this once, Liam said softly. Please, Brian. And that's when I agreed to become him, without yet knowing what he'd really done. The next 3 days felt like cramming for an exam on a subject I hated, advanced Liam Carter. Mom dug out old yearbooks and social media posts. Liam scrolled through his phone, pointing out names, professors, inside jokes. I took notes like I was studying a stranger. This is Professor Hargrove, he said, showing me a photo of an older man in a tweed jacket. He hates late work, but loves when you mention his research on market bubbles. Got it, I muttered, scribbling Bubbles Guy in the margin. We went through his email inbox, forwarded to a burner address he'd set up for me. I memorized which group projects he'd led, which clubs he technically attended, which frat brothers might show up, drunk and loyal. Liam drilled me on little things. How he laughed, the way he shrugged, the way he said man at the end of sentences he didn't care about. Your posture is all wrong, he complained, pushing my shoulders back. You hunch. Maybe because I'm not used to carrying this giant ego, I snapped. He winced, but let it slide. My first test run was a Zoom call with a classmate named Jordan, part of the supposedly innocent study group. Liam claimed they just shared notes. Jordan wanted reassurance. Dude, are we screwed? Jordan demanded as soon as the camera connected. I forced a Liam smirk. Relax, man. They don't have anything solid. Jordan frowned. You wired, he joked, glancing around my empty apartment. You sound off. My stomach lurched. I pulled an all-nighter, I lied. Just tired. Look, they'll talk tough, but they don't want a scandal either. Dad's got some big donors on speed dial. Jordan's shoulders dropped. Right? Yeah, you're probably right. When the call ended, I realized my hands were shaking. Playing Liam, even for 15 minutes, was exhausting. But the weirdest part wasn't the fear. It was how people treated me. The landlord who usually ignored my emails called Liam back immediately when I inquired about additional investment properties. A restaurant gave me a free bottle of wine when Gregory's name came up in casual conversation. Doors that had always been locked suddenly opened because they thought I was my brother. You see, Gregory said when I told him, "You can handle this. You're a natural." Tessa just looked at me with that worried crease between her brows. "You're not a natural," she said later, when we were alone. "You're a decent person walking into a fire in someone else's face." I told her I'd get in and out, grab whatever information we needed, and then go back to my quiet life. But the more I stepped into Liam's shoes, the clearer it became that they weren't just scuffed. They were soaked in something that was already staining my own feet. And the university hearing was only the first room filled with smoke. Acting as Liam at the preliminary hearing should have been simple. Deny, deflect, let Ruiz do the legal heavy lifting. But the more they talked, the more tiny cracks appeared in Liam's story. The conduct officer opened that thick folder and laid out the timeline. "According to our records," she said, "these exam files were accessed from your account 2 days before the midterm, at 2:13 a.m. I glanced at the printout. There was Liam's student email, his login ID, the IP address. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. "I don't remember that night clearly," I said, echoing what Liam had coached. "We had a group study session." "And these transfers?" she asked, flipping to screenshots of payment apps. "Multiple students sent you money labeled help or with course codes. Why would they do that?" "We share study guides," I said. "People chip in sometimes. It's informal." Ruiz jumped in, talking about normal peer support and lack of explicit contracts, but the officer wasn't buying it entirely. I watched her pen tap faster. Afterward, Ruiz pulled me aside. "You did fine," he said, "but if there's anything you're not telling me, it can come back to bite hard later." I wanted to scream, "I'm not him." Instead, I nodded and murmured something noncommittal. Things got worse when I checked the forwarded emails later. A new message, subject line, "You promised." Opening it, I saw, "Liam, my scholarship is at risk because of this. You said everything was covered. You took our money. Now they're threatening expulsion. Answer me." It was from a girl named Alina. Attached were screenshots of their chat. Liam promising 100% exam files in exchange for large payments. I searched his inbox for her name. More messages popped up. Other students, same pattern. My stomach twisted. This wasn't a few shared notes. It was a business. Curiosity turned into something darker. I started tracing the money trail, logging into his payment apps with the passwords he'd given me. Transfers in, transfers out. Some went to clothing stores and bars. Others went to accounts I didn't recognize. One label appeared over and over. M.D. Consulting. The same initials as that Mark who'd called me, Mark Dalton. But when I Googled the company, nothing legit came up. Just a shell website with stock photos. Back at my apartment, surrounded by printouts, I realized this wasn't just an academic mess. It smelled like something big enough to threaten more than a building name. And if I kept pretending to be Liam, I'd be the one holding the bag when it burst. The breakthrough came from somewhere stupid. Liam's forgotten second phone wedged under a couch cushion. I found it when I stopped by our parents' house to drop off some files for Ruiz. The screen lit up as I lifted it. 23 missed calls, all from the same number, plus a flood of texts. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But I was already lying under oath for him. What was one more violation? I swiped, guessing his usual lazy passcode. It opened on the second try. The message thread at the top was with M.D. "You're late again. Investors are getting restless. I didn't sign up to be your fall guy, Liam." Then a photo, a screenshot of a bank portal showing tens of thousands of dollars flowing into an account labeled Carter Growth Fund. The names under investors weren't students. They were adults I recognized, family friends, local business owners, even Mrs. Patel, our old neighbor who ran the corner store. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just selling exams. This looked like some amateur investment scheme using our family name as collateral. There were also messages from Alina, the scholarship student. "My dad took out a loan for your guaranteed program. He thinks this is Gregory Carter's official thing. Do you understand that?" Tessa's name popped up too, in an older thread. "I'm serious, Liam. Don't mix my parents into your projects. We don't have safety nets like you do." He'd replied with a laughing emoji and, "Relax. Everyone wins." I felt sick. All those times Gregory bragged about Liam's entrepreneurial spirit, this is what he meant? Grifting people who trusted our last name? I confronted Liam that night. He was holed up at a luxury condo downtown that I'd never been invited to before. When he opened the door and saw his second phone in my hand, his face drained of color. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. "Couch," I said. "You're welcome." He reached for it, but I stepped back. Who is Mark? What is Carter Growth Fund? Why is Mrs. Patel on this list? Liam raked a hand through his hair. "You don't understand," he said. "It's not just me. Mark set it up. It's legal. Mostly." Mostly, I repeated. "There are students here whose scholarships are on the line. Tessa's parents. You used Dad's name like a discount code for fraud." He slammed his fist into the wall, eyes wild. "I'm fixing it," he said. "That's why I needed you to stall the university. If they go nuclear, investors will bail, and then everything collapses." Everything. The word echoed. How many people were tangled in this everything he'd built on stolen exams and borrowed credibility? And if it all fell, would anyone care that Brian Carter had just been following directions? Once I knew how deep Liam's mess went, pretending to be him stopped feeling like a favor and started feeling like accomplice work. I couldn't unsee those bank transfers. I couldn't unknow the names of the people he'd pulled in with promises and our father's reputation as bait. But walking away wasn't simple either. If I bailed, they'd send the real Liam to the next hearing, and he'd lie his way through it with half-truths Ruiz could barely spin. The students and neighbors might never see justice, and I'd still be the one who knew everything and did nothing. I called Tessa and asked her to come over. She arrived with takeout and the kind of calm that looks like resignation. I spread the printouts across my kitchen table, payment logs, screenshots, the M.D. Consulting shell site. She scanned them silently, jaw clenching. "I told him not to drag my parents into this," she murmured. "Of course he did it anyway. What do I do?" I asked. "If I keep playing Liam, I might be able to steer this toward the truth. But if I mess up, I go down with him." Tessa looked up, eyes bright with anger. "You should never have been put in this position," she said. "They're using your face as a shield." Again. "That doesn't answer the question," I said. She sighed. "Okay, here's what I think. You keep pretending." I opened my mouth to protest, and she held up a hand. "But only long enough to gather everything you need. Documents, timelines, witnesses. Not for Liam. For yourself. For the people he scammed. You build a file so solid that when you drop it, it doesn't matter which Carter they see first." The plan made a terrible kind of sense. I'd already crossed a line. Going back wasn't really an option. At least this way, I'd be walking towards something instead of just deeper into denial. I started small. I forwarded Alina's emails to a private account under my name. I exported transaction histories before Liam could clean up. I recorded a call with Mark where he admitted to packaging exam guarantees with investment opportunities. Ruiz had taught me something valuable without knowing it. Dates, names, and numbers mattered more than feelings. Every screenshot, every PDF, every shaky audio file was another brick in a wall I planned to build between myself and Liam's crimes. The more evidence I collected, the more one thought lodged itself in my brain like a splinter. I might have to be the one to set the match that burned my brother's life down. And I had no idea what that would do to the rest of the family. The close call came at the worst possible time, a Carter family dinner. Just family, Elena had promised. But when I walked into the dining room in Liam's suit, I saw an extra place setting. Beside Gregory sat a woman in a crisp blazer, tablet on the table. "This is Harper," Gregory announced. "She writes for the Business Chronicle. We've given many interviews over the years." Harper smiled, sharp and curious. "I heard you're having a rough semester, Liam," she said. "Thought it might be good to get ahead of any rumors." My throat went dry. This wasn't just dinner. This was damage control, an off-the-record chat to shape the narrative. Elena fluttered around with bread baskets, pretending everything was normal. Tessa shot me a warning look from across the table. Liam, real Liam, was too stressed to attend. In other words, they didn't trust him not to implode. "So," Harper said, turning her attention fully to me. "The article about the exam ring, sensational stuff. How much of it is actually true?" I forced a laugh. "You know how media works," I said, echoing Gregory's favorite line. "They take a misunderstanding and build a thriller." She raised an eyebrow. "Screenshots are hard to misunderstand." Gregory jumped in, talking about context and ambitious peer support gone wrong. I nodded along, careful not to add details I couldn't back up later. Then Harper asked, "And what about Carter Growth Fund? Some of the students mentioned being encouraged to invest with you. The room seemed to shrink. I felt Tessa stiffen beside me. Gregory's fork paused midair. I swallowed. People sometimes confuse study group contributions with other family projects, I said carefully. We're clarifying those boundaries. Harper's eyes narrowed just slightly. That's a very polished answer for a college kid, she said. You sure your dad didn't write that? For a second, panic flared. I could feel the edges of my Liam impersonation fraying. I didn't know how he'd dodge this. I only knew how I would. I'm the one sitting in those rooms, I said quietly. Whatever was done in my name, I'll be the one answering for it. Harper studied my face for a long moment, like she was comparing it to memories. You look different, Liam, she said finally. Older somehow. Across the table, Gregory's gaze stabbed into me, full of warning. I realized then that if Harper dug even a little bit deeper, she might be the first person outside the family to notice the cracks in this performance. And if a journalist smelled a story, there was no way this would stay contained behind our dining room doors. After the dinner, Gregory cornered me in his study, door shut, whiskey glass in hand. What the hell was that, he hissed. You almost let Harper see weakness. I told the truth, I said. At least the part where I'm the one sitting in those rooms. He slammed the glass down so hard amber sloshed over his fingers. You are not the one, Brian, he said. You are a stand-in. A temporary necessity. Do your job and disappear. Stand-in. That word burned. I thought of all the investors and students whose lives Liam had treated like placeholders too. That night, back in my apartment, Tessa and I finalized the plan. Hiding wasn't working. The story was already squirming under the surface. If Harper didn't break it, someone else would. The difference would be whether our version came with receipts. We need one big moment, Tessa said, tapping her pen against my kitchen table. Somewhere all the players have to show up. Family, investors, maybe the university. Like a hearing, I said slowly. Ruiz had mentioned the possibility of a joint session if the academic case bled into financial misconduct. Or a mediation. We did some research. Using my Liam email, I wrote to Ruiz and the University Conduct Office, expressing a desire to resolve all concerns transparently and suggesting a meeting that included affected students and an independent advisor. Ruiz loved the idea. He thought it made Liam look responsible. The university saw it as a chance to centralize the chaos. Then I sent messages, still as Liam, to Mark and a few key investors, hinting that if they didn't come hear my clarifications, I might not be able to keep issues from escalating externally. Fear of exposure is a powerful RSVP motivator. Within a week, we had a date. Conference Room B at the University Law Building. University officials, Ruiz, several furious students, at least 2 family friends who'd invested, and Gregory and Elena to protect the family interests. Tessa insisted on coming too, as emotional support. She'd also quietly tipped Harper that something big was happening on campus that day, no names given. I organized my evidence into a neat binder labeled Documentation, Carter Matters. Inside were printed chats, transaction histories, copies of emails, and a timeline I'd created on sleepless nights. As I zipped it into my bag, my phone buzzed. A text from Liam, who'd been oddly quiet the past few days. You're still going to cover for me, right? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. I typed and deleted 3 different replies before settling on the only honest thing I could send. I'm going to tell the truth, Liam. Whatever that does to us. And as I hit send, I knew there was no backing out of what came next. Conference Room B smelled like burnt coffee and fear. A long table stretched down the middle, lined with 2 uncomfortable chairs. At one end sat the university conduct officer and a dean. Beside them, Ruiz arranged his papers with clinical calm. Across from him, a cluster of students, including Elena and Jordan, whispered angrily. At the far end, Gregory and Elena sat stiff and polished, like they were posing for a campaign photo. I walked in as Liam, binder in hand, heart trying to escape my chest. Tessa squeezed my arm before taking a seat in the back row reserved for observers. I caught a glimpse of someone in the hallway with a notepad and a press badge. Harper, right on time. Thank you all for coming, the dean said. Given the overlap between academic concerns and potential financial misconduct, we've agreed to a joint discussion. Eyes turned to me. For a second, I saw myself reflected in a dozen different ways. Savior, Villain, pawn. We can start with you, Mr. Carter, the conduct officer said. In your words, what happened here? I opened the binder and took a breath. The script my family wanted, downplay, deflect, blame, confusion, sat ready on my tongue. Instead, I flipped to the first page of my timeline. Before we talk about what happened, I said, I need to be honest about something else. Gregory's head snapped toward me. Liam, he started. I held up a hand. My name, I said, voice shaking but loud enough for the recorder on the table to capture, is Brian Carter. I am Liam's twin brother. For the past few weeks, at my family's request, I've been appearing in his place. Silence. Then chaos. Students gasped. The dean's pen slipped from his hand. Ruiz's mouth actually fell open. Elena made a small choked sound, and Gregory surged to his feet. This is ridiculous, Gregory barked. My son is under extreme stress. He misspoke. Sit down, Mr. Carter, the conduct officer said sharply. We will verify identities. For now, Mr. Brian, continue. I laid out the story, piece by piece. The calls, the second phone, the payment logs, the Carter Growth Fund accounts. I slid copies of documents to the university and to Ruiz simultaneously, making sure no one could claim ignorance later. This is a pattern of behavior, I said, pointing to dates. Money from students, money from neighbors, funneled through a shell company created by Mark Dalton, using our family's name as implied security. Alina spoke up, voice trembling. Liam told me my scholarship would be safe if I joined his program. My dad took out a loan. Ruiz cleared his throat. We should pause before drawing legal conclusions, he said carefully. But these documents merit serious review. Harper had slipped into the back of the room by then, scribbling furiously. Gregory saw her and went pale, realizing this was no longer containable. What are you doing? He hissed at me. Do you have any idea what you've just unleashed? I met his gaze, feeling strangely steady now that the words were out. For once, I said, I'm not doing something just because you told me to. The dean looked between us, face grim. We will need statements from both Liam and Brian, he said, and we will be referring certain elements of this to law enforcement. In that moment, with everyone's eyes burning into me, I knew my life had split cleanly into a before and an after. What I didn't know yet was which part of me my family would choose to keep. The fallout came faster than even I'd imagined. Within 48 hours, Harper's article hit the Chronicle's front page. Twin deception exposes Carter family academic and investment scandals. There was a photo of Liam and me at 12, side by side in matching shirts, captioned, "Which Carter did you trust?" Gregory's firm released a statement about being shocked and saddened by allegations against a family member, emphasizing that Carter Growth Fund was unauthorized. Investors started calling, then pulling out of unrelated projects just to be safe. The stock price of the company dipped, then plunged. At home, the family split along fault lines I hadn't known were there. Elena called me sobbing, saying I'd humiliated them and destroyed our chance to fix this quietly. A few hours later, my aunt, Tessa's mom, sent a simple text, "Proud of you. We'll be okay." Liam finally reached out, using a burner number. We met in a park at dusk, both wearing hoodies like we were kids again, sneaking out past curfew. "You ruined me," he said without preamble. His eyes were bloodshot. His leg bounced uncontrollably. "I didn't make you sell exams or scam people," I replied. He laughed brokenly. "You think cops care which twin did what when Dad's name is on everything? They'll make an example of me to prove money doesn't buy justice." I swallowed. "There are emails, Liam. Bank records. Messages with your face, your voice. You did this." "I did this because they expected me to," he shot back. "Dad wanted a mini-him. Mom needed a golden boy. You think if you'd been born first, it wouldn't be you out there playing puppet?" The words stung because somewhere deep down, I knew they weren't entirely wrong. "I'm cooperating," I said quietly. "With the university. With the investigators. I have to." He stared at me, betrayal and fear warring in his expression. "You chose them over me," he said. "I chose not to go to prison for you," I said. "And I chose not to let you drag everyone else down without a fight." He stood abruptly. "We're done," he said. "Whatever happens next, don't call me." He walked away, hands jammed in his pockets, shoulders hunched in a way that looked eerily like my own. The next week was a blur of meetings with lawyers, statements to campus police, intense calls from Gregory's crisis manager urging me to tone it down. My hours at the repair shop got cut. Customers recognized me, whispered, pointed. "Isn't that the cheating twin?" someone muttered once. I'd thought telling the truth would feel like relief. Instead, it felt like standing in the wreckage of a house I'd helped burn, trying to decide what pieces were worth saving. The thing about blowing up your life is that at some point, you have to decide what to build in the crater. After the initial storm, articles, hearings, endless family arguments, there was just quiet. Awkward, suffocating quiet. I started therapy at a low-cost clinic across town. The intake form asked, "What brings you here?" I wrote, "Being born second." It made my therapist chuckle when she read it, but she didn't dismiss it. We talked about twins, roles, how identity can get twisted when every introduction begins with, "Which one are you?" Work slowly stabilized. My boss at the repair shop, Mr. Nguyen, pulled me aside one day. "Customers talk," he said. "They always will. But you show up on time, you fix things right, you own your mistakes. That matters more here than your last name." I picked up more hours, saved money. Tessa and I started a little side project, teaching basic digital literacy and scam awareness to local high schoolers and scholarship students. We used fake names, anonymized stories, but the core was obvious. Don't trust anyone just because they have money, connections, or a shiny last name. As for my family, I built boundaries brick by brick. I blocked Gregory's number after the 10th voicemail accusing me of betrayal, while somehow also asking if I'd clarify a few things for his lawyers. I told Elena I'd meet her for coffee, but not in the house with the donation plaques. We sat in a quiet cafe instead, where she cried and half apologized without ever fully admitting what she'd done. I thought, if we could just get through this, we'd fix it later, she said, stirring cold coffee. Fix it how? I asked. Who would pay back the students? The neighbors? Tessa's parents? She didn't have an answer. Liam took a plea deal with the university, no degree, permanent academic misconduct on his record. There were ongoing investigations into the fund. Mark cut some bargain that left everyone furious but unsurprised. Legal stuff moved slowly, but the immediate penalties were real enough. People occasionally asked if I missed my brother. The honest answer was complicated. I missed the version of him that used to build Lego spaceships with me and let me have the blue pieces. I didn't miss the version who saw me as a convenient shadow to step into when the spotlight got too hot. For the first time in my life, when someone said Brian Carter, they meant me, not Liam's brother. And as terrifying as it was, that empty space where my role used to be started to feel like room to grow. So yeah, I pretended to be my twin brother to save our family reputation, and ended up saving myself instead. Not in some heroic, movie montage way, but in the slow, awkward work of telling the truth and then living with what it breaks. These days, my life looks small from the outside. I still rent a modest apartment with mismatched furniture. I still fix cracked screens and humming desktops. On Wednesday nights, I sit in a circle of folding chairs at a community center, sharing stories with people whose families taught them that love was conditional and appearances were everything. Once, Tessa asked me if I'd do it again, if I'd agree to impersonate Liam knowing how it would all turn out. I thought about Alina finishing her degree because the university set up restitution funds. I thought about Mrs. Patel rolling her eyes and telling me, "We survive worse than flaky rich boys." I thought about the look on my own face in the mirror now, tired, sure, but finally recognizable as mine. I'd like to say no, I told her, but I think I needed to walk through his life to realize I never wanted it. If you're watching this and you've spent your whole life being the backup plan, the fixer, the quiet twin, here's what I learned. You can love your family and still refuse to be their shield. You can choose truth even when it shatters the image everyone clings to. And you are allowed to build a life where you exist as more than someone else's understudy.